Civil Rights Museum, the place where Birmingham's struggle in the civil rights movement lives with each passing day. You can't visit the Iron City without a trip to this historic museum.
I was in the 4th grade when the church was bombed across the street, 16th Street Baptist Church. And I had several friends that I grew up with that were actually in the church when it was bombed. And it is a constant reminder. And some of the old icons, including Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, who passed on last October, they are constantly reminders that there was a price to be paid for us to be in the position that we are right now. The BCRI, which is what we like to call the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, is American history. And everybody needs to know the history of America. And the civil rights foot soldiers, Reverend Shuttlesworth, and all of the accomplishments that were made in order for us to be able to vote next month. I mean, it didn't come free. Somebody had to pay a price. And Reverend Shuttlesworth and a lot of other the civil rights foot soldiers paid the price for us to be able to vote for our president.
In Montgomery, Alabama, two of the civil rights movement's most significant buildings stand side by side. One is an elegant federal courthouse from which U.S. District Judge Frank M. Johnson, Jr. presided over crucial civil rights cases. The other is a modest Greyhound bus station, where in 1961, young freedom riders used nonviolent methods to protest segregation. In the 1990s, when the U.S. General Services Administration began planning for the expansion of the federal building and U.S. courthouse, the bus station stood within the proposed courthouse's site plan. A Section 106 review was triggered, bringing together the GSA, the Alabama Historical Commission, the U.S. District Court, and members of the Greyhound Bus Station's Advisory Committee, who worked together to preserve the bus station. Recognizing that the bus station's location next to the Frank M. Johnson courtroom offered unique opportunities for interpreting a shared history, the GSA agreed to lease the station to the Historical Commission for a small fee. The commission soon developed a plan to open the Freedom Rides Museum. Transportation and state funds were used to clean and repoint the bus station's facade, replicate the original Greyhound signs, rehabilitate the interior, and develop permanent exhibits detailing the history of the bus station as well as the courthouse. On May 20th, 2011, the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Rides, the museum opened with a celebration that included remarks from original freedom riders, including Congressman John Lewis. The histories of these two buildings are intertwined, and now, thanks to an innovative federal agency and private partnership, their futures are as well.
name is Georgette Norman, Director of Troy University Rosa Parks Museum here in Montgomery, Alabama. A museum that pays homage to one of the seminal events of the 20th century, the 382-day Montgomery bus boycott. On your tour at the museum, you get a chance to get key information as to why and how Negroes, as they were called back then, were able to stage this historic event and become part of history yourself. Come with me on a tour of the museum. Your guided tour begins in the orientation room, where you get a glimpse into the segregated South, meet key players of the boycott, begin to understand the roles of organizational structures, interracial partnerships, and the role of women. Now let's move into the bus room. After witnessing Rosa Parks' famous "No" heard round the world and her ultimate arrest, we go to the first mass meeting at Holt Street Baptist Church, where you become a part of the congregation and realize that indeed the boycott had been successful and we are about to embark on a few more days. You meet Reverend Martin Luther King at a very personal moment when he questioned his decision to lead the Montgomery Improvement Association after his life was threatened. When he has his epiphany that says, "Martin, stand up for righteousness and justice." We also meet Martin when he proved that indeed he was a Gandhian, when it was tested and his house was bombed, and he told the crowd, "Lay down your weapons and go home." We learn about national and international support for the boycott and how with 19 station wagons, the Montgomery Improvement Association started a massive transportation system. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Browder v. Gale, the case which ended the boycott, that segregation on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama was unconstitutional. And so after 382 days of boycotting, buses were integrated in Montgomery, Alabama. To get the fuller story and experience it for yourself, please visit us and enjoy the event that embarked on 10 of the most profound years in U.S. history, from 1955 to 1965. I'm Georgette Norman, Director of Troy University Rosa Parks Museum.
We have no alternative but to keep moving with determination. We've gone too far now to turn back. And in a real sense, we are moving and we cannot afford to stop because Alabama and because our nation has a date with destiny. I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything that Jim Clark does in this community. It's time for us to say to these men that if you don't do something about it, we will have no alternative but to engage in broader
and more drastic forms of civil disobedience in order to bring the attention of the nation to this whole issue in Selma, Alabama. Deep down in our nonviolent creed is the conviction that there are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that they're worth dying for. And if a man happens to be 36 years old, as I happen to be, and some great truth stands before the door of his life, some great opportunity to stand up for that which is right, he's afraid his home will get bombed, or he's afraid that he will lose his job, or he's afraid that he will get shot or beat down by state troopers. He may go on and live until he's 80, but he's just as dead as 36 as he would be at 80, and the cessation of breathing in his life is merely the belated announcement of an earlier death of the spirit. He died. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true. So we're going to stand up right here amid horses. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid billy clubs. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid police dogs if they have them. We're going to stand up amid tear gas. We're going to stand up amid anything that they can muster up, letting the world know that we are determined to be free.
It had come from the direction of Mac's Cafe, where those fleeing the beating had taken refuge. Jimmy Lee Jackson, a black, had tried to prevent his mother and grandfather from being beaten and had been thrown to the ground by a state trooper.
And picked Jimmy up off the floor and ensured him in a corner and actually shot him in the side. Just took a pistol and stuck it in his side and shot him. And as he ran up that hill, they continued to beat him and ran just beyond the church and fell between the church and the post office.
Jimmy Lee Jackson was 26, well-liked, quiet, and the youngest deacon of his church. They would bury him the following Saturday, walking 4 miles in the rain from Marion to the Black Burial Ground just east of town.
Grandmaster of Alabama. Jimmy Lee Jackson was a member of Goshen Lodge number 132. He was an Army veteran who had been trying to register to vote for quite some time, but was constantly being denied. At the time when he was shot, he was trying to protect his mother, who was being beaten by a state trooper. He was shot, and he was in the hospital, and he died almost a week later. But he was a member of our organization. We have film of where we carried his body 4 miles outside of the city limits of Marion to bury him. And we just thank God that we know that he was a member, and we couldn't honor him any better way than what we've done today.
Apron that went across the front of the store. When the two white men and two black women approached, Ruby Sales went first as John Daniels, wearing his seminarian's collar, reached to open the screen door for her. Richard Morrisroe and Josh Bailey were several feet behind them. As Daniels opened the screen door, Tom Coleman suddenly appeared at the door with his shotgun. He shouted that the store was closed and ordered them to get off this property or I'll blow your goddamn heads off, you son of bitches. In an instant, Daniels asked if he was threatening them and pushed Ruby Sales out of the way and to the ground as Coleman, standing only a few feet from Daniels, abruptly fired his 12-gauge shotgun at the seminarian. At point-blank range, a loaded buckshot tore a hole in the right side of Daniels' chest. He fell backward onto the concrete apron and died instantly.
Jonathan Daniels, we were just at Brown Chapel Church and they raised his name. Mm-hmm. He was a white seminarian. He was an activist who came here.
Okay, Jonathan Daniels was a white Episcopalian minister that lived with us in the GWC homes. And I still remember vividly that the day he was killed, he went to Lowndes County trying to register blacks to vote. They let him out of jail. It was him and a Catholic priest and two black girls. And the guy that ran the store told Jonathan that
they went to buy some food at the store.
Right. And so the guy pulled a shotgun on him, told him that he was not going to serve any blacks or end lovers in his store. Jonathan stepped in front of the black lady. And
because he was scared she was going to be shot.
Right. Jonathan died instantly, and a Catholic priest, Father Morrisroe, was hit here. He's still living today, and those two black girls are still living today. But Jonathan was killed instantly.
Dr. King would later say that what he did, what Jonathan Daniels did, was one of the most heroic Christian deeds of which I have heard in my entire ministry, was performed by Jonathan Daniels.
That's correct. You know, Jonathan was a brave, original man. As a matter of fact, Jonathan's parents and girlfriend begged him to leave Selma, Alabama and come back to New Hampshire. And I heard Jonathan tell him back in the bedroom that he was going to stay here in Selma, Alabama. He said God sent him to Selma, Alabama to work with the poor and help people register to vote. And his mom, dad, and his girlfriend just broke down and cried because they more or less felt his death. But Jonathan said that he was not going to leave Selma, Alabama. And he did.
Jim Clark. Ain't gonna let no Jim Clark turn me around.
My name is Rob Hardees, and I'm the pastor of All Souls Church in Washington, D.C. Our minister, James Reeb, was martyred in Selma 50 years ago this week. So we're here today to continue his march for voting rights. James Reeb marched with Dr. King on Turnaround Tuesday. 2 days after Bloody Sunday, Dr. King organized another march. And he marched people across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and then they turned around at the end of the bridge. Later that night, James Reeb, the minister of our church, was coming out of a black diner, and he was bludgeoned to death by 3 Klansmen on the streets of Selma. He died 50 years ago for the right to vote, and today we're marching in his honor.
Over the bridge, right where the front lines were met by the Alabama State Troopers, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Can you tell me your name?
My name is Paula DeFlorio.
And where are you from?
And I'm from Los Angeles, California.
And I see you holding a sign that says...
It says Be Brave, hashtag Be Brave. It's a campaign that we're running between now and August 6th when the Voting Rights Act was passed. And we're raising awareness about what sacrifice was made to allow everybody to vote.
The sign says, I am Viola.
That's right.
Can you talk about Home of the Brave?
Home of the Brave is the story about Viola Liuzzo. She was a mother of 5, married to Jim Liuzzo, left her family after she saw what happened here in Bloody Sunday, got up in a car, drove through 3 states to participate in the march after she heard Martin Luther King call everyone to come down and help out with the march. And she did that. And she was murdered by the Klan on Highway 80. She was volunteering and as a nurse, and also she gave her car to the cause, and she was shuttling people back and forth between Selma and Montgomery. And on the last day of the march, they were heading back to Selma, and she was gunned down by Klansmen. and shot in the head, and she died. And the film follows her 5 children as they, decades later, try to put the pieces together of what happened to their mom.
Tell me what the back of your T-shirt says.
Empathy is the most revolutionary emotion, and it's a statement that Gloria Steinem said about Viola and about what she did here. And she's in the film Home of the Brave, which is being re-released. We're re-releasing it in 50 states for the 50th anniversary of this voting rights march, and I think that that's the key. Bottom line, Viola was not a political leader, not a spiritual leader. She was a regular person like me and you.